It came as a surprise, and it sure came as a disappointment.
Now we have to deal with the facts. And the fact is that we couldn't conclude the coalition talks successfully.
After elections in September left her without a majority, Chancellor Angela Merkel has had to seek an alliance with rival parties. But the center-right Free Democrats suddenly pulled out of negotiations with the conservative bloc and the environmentalist Greens.
It turns out that the four coalition partners do not have common positions on the modernization of our country, and above all that, no basis for mutual trust could develop.
But it seems investors are confident in Europe's largest economy and unconcerned who will govern it. After weakening in early trade on Monday, the euro recovered, trading slightly higher against the dollar. European stock markets also brushed off worries over the failed talks, with the DAX up 0.3%.
The stock markets are cool, the currency markets too, because they know precisely that we will have a government sooner or later. But the decisive elements for the markets are, after all, monetary policy and the global economy. And in these areas, things are working rather well. Nobody needs to be afraid.
Germany's central bank says strong industrial activity and a positive labor market would keep driving its economy. It grew 0.8% in the third quarter, beating estimates. And unemployment remained at a historic low of 5.6% last month. Germany's politicians now have two options: to form a minority government or call new elections. But with weeks or even months of political paralysis ahead, Germany could struggle to take action at home or within Europe.
I think it's bad news for Europe that the government in Germany will take a little longer. But we'll see what's happening over there.
But taking a little longer means creating a little more uncertainty. And with difficult Brexit negotiations underway, failed coalition talks in Germany are another reminder of the political and economical risks Europe is facing. Christine Pirovolakis, TRT World.
Ira Spitzer joins us now from Berlin. Ira, great to have you on the show. What are investors telling you about how they view the political situation in Germany?
Well, over the past couple of years, we've had these events that have been fairly unexpected, such as the election of Donald Trump in the United States, the vote for Brexit in the United Kingdom, and investors have by and large had to really sort of brush off these events and have not reacted necessarily that strongly. And that is what we saw again in Germany today with the announcement that the three-way coalition talks had broken down, throwing this country into a period of political uncertainty. As we heard in that report there didn't really seem to be any sort of major moves on the stock market or in the end with the euro. Everything sort of recovered by the end of the session. So that is sort of the way people are looking at this right now. Of course, going forward, we don't know how the rest of the year will play out. It certainly does seem to add some uncertainty to the equation, which is not something that investors are necessarily fond of. But at the same time, I think there is a general sense of confidence that despite not knowing perhaps the next makeup of the German government, that things will probably not change that dramatically. There's no reason that they really should. What's really happened here is that these parties simply have failed to negotiate a coalition, somewhat surprisingly.
Okay, let's delve into the politics for a moment. What were the main reasons for the FDP's decision to walk out of the talks? In what ways does Christian Lindner want, as he calls it, to modernize the German economy?
Well, this was always going to be a difficult negotiation, and the main reason for that is the presence of the liberal FDP with the pro-environment Green Party. Those were unlikely partners who have some pretty different ideas. So I think it was perhaps a bit optimistic to think that they could find a compromise. But when the FDP and Christian Lindner talk about modernizing Germany's economy, they're really referring to some of the red tape, the high taxes, things like that, which they feel are really sort of hindering Germany. And other ways where the FDP differs significantly from some other parties is they don't have much of a commitment to Eurozone integration necessarily. They want to see Germany with a little more freedom to kind of set its own monetary policy and not be so dependent on its European partners. So the reason that the talks ended, I'm sure, was a combination of factors, but it really was too hard for these disparate parties to come together on issues, including financial ones.
Now, one of the options that seems to be that President Frank-Walter Steinmeier could force the CDU and the SPD to form yet another grand coalition, even though the SPD has categorically said that they're not quite interested in going into government. But how might such a new coalition's economic policies shift from the current government's?
Well, the president can't really force the SPD to join the coalition. However, he can strongly urge that party, which was his former party until he became president, to really take a close look and reconsider their position about being part of the coalition. So that we'll have to see in the next few days what happens there. But I think what that would mean for Germany and for Europe would actually be the SPD having more say in economic policy, because that would probably be one of the conditions in which they would return to this coalition. And the SPD has historically been and continues to be more supportive of Eurozone integration, of some of the policies advocated by France's President Emmanuel Macron. So if they come back to the negotiating table, I think one likely outcome there could be more support for really sort of pushing ahead with public investment here in Germany and trying to stimulate the economy here in order to stimulate Eurozone growth as a whole.
Right. Ira, we are running out of time, but one final question. What are analysts saying about the progress of the Brexit negotiations if Merkel is unable to cobble together a coalition?
Well, the reality here is that despite some of the confidence that Germany will right this ship soon, no one really knows what the next few months hold. And for the Brexit negotiations, that is really been on the back burner today. So I think it would be fair to say that it is not a positive step for either Europe or for the United Kingdom to have this sort of uncertainty in Germany right now.
Ira Spitzer in Berlin, thank you so much.